all the people is like, no, but I just want to do this. Like, we're way past that. The bias is gone. Either talk about it or shut up. And what you are doing now is bending the knee. It's like, well, I agree with you, but I'm also going to try and be on their side. And I disagree with everything they're doing, but I still want to be with them.
Anish Gamer says, came out over here, and they're responding to the Elon Musk tweet. Says, it should not be acceptable for any company in the game industry to be racist and sexist against quote unquote white guys. And this is coming off of if you go any further, this is the global head of marketing here for Xbox that said this the other day about raise your hand if you're not a white man and want to buy video games, right? And she backtracked that. She locked her stuff, and Elon Musk tweeted about it. Well, Niche Gamer came in and says, while we do agree with the base sentiment of gaming companies, quote, overplaying their hands per se, unfortunately, we can't cover this particular story or more stories like this without potentially getting punished by the PR firms hired by those same game companies, who we have to rely on to get access to video games for review and coverage purposes, ranging from smaller devs to mid-size operations, even AAA game companies and publishers alike. Because a lot of those same PR companies, those PR people, support the people who hold these similar views, like what Elon is referring to here. We're already having significant issues and experiencing roadblocks regarding getting access to AAA titles because we have covered the Sweet Baby Inc. stories alone. It's quite unfortunate. So there's that. And then they posted this because there was some, I'd say there's some pushback. Some people were understanding of it. Some people were not. And they responded with, we made this post last night because we're fed up with the status quo. To anyone saying that we're, quote, bending the knee, this post is to say we're not. Making that post will already irritate the people, causing us issues, and it's time we stop placating to them. We're committed to free expression and enthusiast press. That means we want people to make and play games they want to play, and we want to share the news you care about. That's what we stand for, and that's what we're going to do. So, my take on this is very simple. Name the companies, name the PR companies, call them out.
This is pretty widespread though in general with like content creators and stuff too. If you're not basically a shill for them, like they might have a little bit of leeway, but if you're not basically just a shill for them, or if you have any opinions they don't like, for example with me and my Christian values and all that, I used to get PR like game codes all the time. I hardly ever had to buy new releases. I was on all the mainstream PR lists. And once I started speaking out against the vaccine mandates, all that kind of stuff that people were pushing for, that's when I stopped getting codes for games. I stopped, they took me off their list and all that kind of stuff. So it's insane. It's been like this for a while. And it's like, it's at the point now, if people actually want reviews with integrity, then you need to wait until these outlets or creators or whoever you're following for reviews are buying the games themselves, because anything that these companies are sending PR units for or codes and all that, it's because they're approved. So yeah.
Right.
The thing is,
this was a response here. PR companies looking at this right now, and they said, you're right. And unfortunately, we'll probably face more backlash from tweeting this out. But it's not fair to be called out by IKEA and other places for, quote, refusing to cover stories. In an ideal world, you think talking about this without bias would be worth something, but it isn't.
Yeah.
So, I think that I have an interesting perspective on this because I've been on both sides of this. I've had conversations with PR people literally this morning about this. And I want to be clear, like I like the Niche Gamer site. I think they do great work. It doesn't mean I necessarily agree with this take.
You would think that being unbiased in these things and just reporting it would be objective, but it isn't. It's like, yes, you can't compromise with these people by saying, well, I agree with you that this shouldn't be the case, but I'm also not going to talk about it to please them. They will hate you anyway.
Right.
Like, you either agree with them or you're with everybody else. If you're going to do this, you may as well pick a side and talk about it. Because there is no middle ground, and it doesn't matter what you think about, it doesn't matter what your morality, what your principles are, that middle ground doesn't exist because they will not let it exist in the first place, which is why they've actually got as far as they have in this, because they move into an area, expel everybody else, and it just gets more and more extreme as they talk to each other and keep contributing and slowly incrementalizing a lot further and further away. And so all the people are like, no, but I just want to do this. Like, we're way past that. The bias is gone. Either talk about it or shut up. And what you are doing now is bending the knee. It's like, well, I agree with you, but I'm also going to try and be on their side. And I disagree with everything they're doing, but I still want to be with them, which
Right.
is, I think, what most people would consider the lowest position.
It's cowardly.
Well, I'll say this. Okay. Having worked with PR companies and Grummz, I'm anxious to hear your take on this as well. They're already tarnished. They've already have the X against their name, and if they get anything, it's almost out of spite because they don't want to. The run around here that I got for years at Screw Attack when we covered news was, well, we don't have any codes. That's a lie. You can have as many codes as you want on Steam forever. That you can have as many as you want, and well, we only have so many. No, you don't. You have as many as you want to give out, and it just depends on if you're on the trusted media source. One of the arguments was, well, I don't have $60 to buy the game, right? And it's like, I get that, I understand that. That is an expense that you as a business have to figure out if you want to make. If you want to spend $60 on a game, are you going to receive $60 in revenue from writing that article back, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are all literally business decisions that you have to make. And the other argument is, no, it's way bigger than video games. It's way more than just the $60 game. It's about access. It's about going to live events. It's about going to these live events and being able to talk to these developers firsthand and being a part of that. And to that, I say, that's null and void. Twitter ruined that. The internet's ruined that. There's no these live events where you're announcing things. It's all announced instantaneously, anyways. So I would much rather have a great relationship with my audience than compromise by having to bend to their rules.
I have a bit of a different take on this. I think it's important to recognize what has worked in the past and what hasn't. And one thing that the left really does well, and the one reason why they keep winning, is because they close ranks.
Yeah.
And to an extreme degree. I mean, you've got the Prime Minister of Canada doing things that are very against their belief system, but they close ranks. They stick up for each other. The right, on the other hand, I think because, the right has a sense of moral obligation, a code, if you will, that the code is very important, like a warrior's code. And if you violate that code, that gets called out. But I think there needs to be guerrilla tactics here. I think we have to really be careful about going after our own.
Yep.
And I'll be a little more specific here. I think that as long as you're still fighting, I think the right should support you. And everyone fights to the best of their ability. Okay. And I don't see Niche Gamer quitting. Their articles on Black Girl Gamers, their articles on Sweet Baby Inc. are still up there. They even self-admit that their own tweet is designed to irritate the PR contacts that they have. Everyone fights their own ability. As long as you keep fighting, Niche Gamer is an asset. If Niche Gamer pisses off all their PR contacts and they can no longer float, let's face it, these sites don't make a lot of money. It's really tough out there with advertising, and paying for games sounds simple, but there could be other alternatives to that. I'm not saying there aren't, but we're better off with Niche Gamer being around and fighting than not being around. And listen, this is not just relegated to news sites. We have so many Anon supporters, right? Tons of my followers. They're all anonymous. They can't afford to be not anonymous, or they would be kicked out of their jobs and they would be canceled, and they have no means to fight back. I have developers coming to me telling me what's really going on inside because they're frustrated. They can't out themselves. So, there are real repercussions to this. And I think as long as everyone's fighting and fighting to the best of their ability, that's okay.
The issue is the tweet immediately made that not the case. What that did was piss off their audience, because they essentially said, well, we'd like to agree with you, but we can't. So now you've pissed off both sides, which is what happens if you sit on the fence. And
True.
it's like, yeah, you can have no other option. But if it is like, well, I would lose my job for this, and it's like no one's going to be like, yeah, you should just lose your job and your family and whatever. They would have just been better not putting this tweet out, because this isn't going to do anything to the PR things.
They should
agree.
They've essentially kicked a beehive and gained nothing for it.
Yeah, I agree that it was not a good strategy or tactic, and I think maybe it was made hastily. But should we jump all over them for it? I think we're better off figuring out, asking, and this is what I sent to Brandon, the owner, and this is what I tweeted. How can we help? Can we start a fund to get you games so that you're more independent of this stuff? Rather than picking them to death over this one thing, we close ranks and we figure out a way.
Yeah, for me, this story isn't necessarily about niche gamer. It's about the access that if there's a niche gamer, there's, give me 20, 30, 40, 50 other sites out there just like them that are struggling with the same thing, right? This is about the access that you are granted if you think a certain way, and the access you are not granted by these PR companies if you don't. That's the bigger issue here. Niche gamer is just a part, that they're just something to point at right now as an example of this. The bigger problem is that, once again, this comes back to an ideology that if you don't agree with this, you're out. So yeah, I certainly agree.
Blackmail. Now, one thing that's interesting that's happened before, you see it in the tech space a lot. If any of the tech people come out and go, well, we'll give you this laptop, but we need good reviews, all of the other tech sites immediately converge and they'd be like, we're not standing for this. They all put out videos, and that is them closing ranks. The issue is, in gaming, it is essentially the people in charge versus the gamers, as we've seen from various different comments recently. And so it would be nice if the other gaming channels did come out and be like, we won't stand for this. But if everybody's together, it's like, no, I want the games because that allows me to get the stuff first. You were essentially being blackmailed. And it's like, well, are you really fighting if what you care about is the release date of a game?
Right.
Well, it depends on what they publish after this. Like if they start, look, I don't know if you guys already discussed how Black Girl Gamer sent a cease and desist to the Park Place. But they're stepping it up, right? And they're based in UK. I was wrong about that. They're not a US based group. They're a UK based group, and they're reaching over the pond to get someone to write a cease and desist. You can get a lawyer to write anything, so that's not impressive of its own. But that is, maybe they got a letter too. Who knows? They've definitely published an article about BGG. We don't know what pressures there are there. As long as they keep fighting and keep putting up articles, then I'm okay with it. If they stop and they go silent, then I'd be like, okay, they're compromised.
Right.
I agree.
I'm with that. I think what and what really helps with this kind of situation is a supportive community. And just like Grummz was just saying earlier, like, hey, take some action, some initiative of maybe how can the community help to fund them buying games so that they can review them. For example, what we've seen time and time again in this space is that the community is willing to support creators who are fighting against this stuff. I mean, they're supporting all of us. And so I think in Niche Gamer's case, instead of just their approach that they took, that was a time to reach out to the community, let them know the situation. And instead of just having kind of a weak answer to it, should have been, hey, our integrity is more important. We're going to say what we want to say. And because of this, we will be needing support and relying on viewer support. So here is a portal where if you want to help support keeping the website running and getting us buying us games for us to review, this is how you can do that.
Melanie, they could have handled this so much better. You're right. They could have said, listen, we are under intense pressure right now. You wouldn't believe the types of things they're asking us to pull down or censor or everything else. We need your help. We're about to get our game access cut off. We're starting a fund. They could have made this into a rallying point. And, both Kabrutus and I responded immediately with how can we help? And there's been no answer. And I know Brandon, the owner from GG1, right? And I reached out to him asking the same thing this morning, and I'm hoping to hear back. But I think they really have an opportunity to make this a rallying point, make niche gamers stronger rather than being a question mark.
Someone in chat raised a good point. They could always take the Jack Sparrow route.
What's that?
If they're not, you know, if it's like believe in our ideology or we won't send you code. I mean, they could consult with Jack Sparrow in Minecraft.
Oh,
Well, one of the issues with the game thing specifically is because it takes like 30 hours to complete a game before you can review it. Getting it before launch is a major thing because you can have it out on launch when everyone's looking to buy it. So lots of YouTubers have.
But let's be real. All these reviews anyway, even if you get them in advance, they're always biased and slanted.
Yeah.
And none of them actually even, not none of them, but many of them don't even finish the game before they review it. So it's like, all right.
Kotaku. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
If a company is asking you that, well, you can't talk about this issue, they'll definitely be telling you to not talk about other things or not mention other things or influence your reviews in other places. So it really is a slippery slope of, once they have power over you and they can hold you over you, they'll hold it for more and more and more and more and more. So at some point, people are going to hit a line. There will be a line where it's like, oh, I can't do this.
With the Tomb Raider remasters reviews, the Kotaku, that editor just outright, they gave it a bad review and said, oh, I played bits and pieces of each game, like didn't even beat one of them out of the trilogy. But I mean, you should be beating them all. But that's just where things are at. But they get a code. But then someone like myself, who's been a massive Tomb Raider fan and who has been pushing these remasters like crazy, whenever somebody on the team actually did try to get me a code for the game ahead of time, and he got shot down. So yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Okay. Let's go back to the original GG. Okay. What was it about? You ask one person over here, they're going to say it was about harassment. The other side's going to say it was about journalism, right? What is this about? How did this whole thing start, right? And this started with a group on Steam and then it snowballed when Kotaku wrote the story, leaving things out, right? They left things out. It goes back to gaming journalism. What is Niche Gamer, right? They're a site, a game journalist site, and I think that's the thing that really, like, you have an opportunity to make a stand right now. You should make that stand. You're tarnished goods already. These people who are at these whether it's events, whether it's PR companies that run these events or have access to these companies, like I said, you're already damaged goods at this point, right? You might as well just burn the bridge and trust your community, because at the end of the day, your community will back you. If your relationship with your audience is strong enough, they will back you. They will help you if your crusade is true. And that's what I go back to with this. And like I said, this is a much bigger part than Niche Gamer. And Disbrew, I think you nailed it, man. Like, other sites need to come out and be like, yeah, we're not playing this. And they need to band together and say, no, we're not doing this anymore. If you want coverage, awesome. Then let's actually treat each other like adults, and we will provide you with, the impressions, the page views, whatever. Provide us with the codes, but we're not playing this game where if you do this, we're going to do this. We're not doing this pay for play thing, because that's really what it is. Yeah. So that's the bigger issue with this for me, for sure.
The other issue is just from like an internet competition perspective. On the internet now, you're competing against literally everybody else, and everybody can talk about this stuff. And the audience can find somebody which is one of the best things about YouTube. If you want to talk about anything, you can find someone who's almost custom made for you. They will literally present things just how you like, because there's so many people doing it. There's one thing for everybody. And if you are under these restrictions, you become just like a gray sludge, because you can't add anything of like your own spin into anything. You've all got to stay within really predefined limits. And so you end up like everybody else, and you won't stand out, and people won't choose you. And if you actually come up with something like unique or original, or that might actually contact better with an audience, you will grow more than being just the generic corporate sludge that so many other people are, because they all have to obey the same rules.
And when it comes down to like reviews, yes, having the first review out is very important, right? Getting out there first is important, specifically if you're looking for like a text review via a website. But here's the reality of it, right? Niche Gamer and all these smaller websites that don't make a whole lot of money, they're fighting against Goliaths that have decades of SEO, decades of traction on Google that will automatically rise them above whatever niche gamer has, right? And so I would think, and I think this just comes down to personal approach, right? I would rather take my time with a review and establish that, hey, you can trust my take on this. It may be a week late, but you can trust my take. And I trust that we'll make more than the $60 and enough to pay the writer for this based off that. Goes back to the PR people. You are what they think you are, regardless of if you're that or not. Perception is reality. So